Hi everyone, and welcome to another video about video games with me, Rob, and today we're talking about HellSign, which is available right now on Steam, and it's developed by Ballistic Interactive and published by them as well. Now, Ballistic Interactive are a small two-person indie dev team who are based in Australia, and their aim is to make games that they would want to play themselves, and they hope other people like them too. And I have to say, big shout out to Ballistic Interactive. Love the game for very specific reasons. Now, at the beginning of the game, you'll have a very heavily stylized comic book panel type scene, which slowly fades in each panel. Very, very stylized, very angularly muscled man having a nightmare about whatever it is that he's having a nightmare about. And then the scene shifts on to an abandoned house, and you take on the role of a scout who has to go into the house and figure out what it is that's inside the house, and you have to report to the team outside, which you'll see in a minute, that whole thing. Here's the thing, I like this game, and I like this game a lot, for very specific reasons, as I said. Now, way back in the mid-90s, I stumbled upon a very strange comic published by Dark Horse that I'd never read before, and I became a massive fan of it. And some of you might have heard of it. It's called Hellboy. And Hellboy is basically a supernatural detective / exterminator. He works for the BPRD, the Bureau of Paranormal Research and Defense, and as was stated in the first Hellboy movie starring Ron Perlman, the BPRD are the things that bump back against the things that go bump in the night. So, that's basically where I'm coming from with regards to this game, and Hellboy has had 2, maybe 3 video game iterations, if I remember rightly. There was one for the PC called Dogs of the Night, which was then ported to the PlayStation and called Asylum Seeker. And then there was the Science of Evil, which was based on the first Ron Perlman movie. And I think he appeared as a character in Injustice as well. But this is the thing. I do a podcast called 4Panel, and we talked about Hellboy on the most recent episode. And I made the comment that they could do a Hellboy game if they wanted to. A proper Hellboy game which involved investigation and research, and you going in and exploring, possibly exterminating, because that's what Hellboy is, supernatural exterminator. And lo and behold, HellSign is exactly the type of game that a Hellboy game should be, which is one of the reasons why I like it so much. Now, I will say the control system takes a little bit of getting used to. It is the WASD keys on your keyboard, and it is mouse control, and so it takes a little bit of time. And the abandoned areas that you go into, they are procedurally generated. This is one of those strange games where it's very, very difficult for you to die. Well, stay dead, I should say. You do die, but you get resurrected again, and you can basically repeat over certain missions. But as you're going through and you're exploring, you basically can look for clues to figure out what's going on if it's one of those investigation missions. And as you can see, this is a very, very careful approach. You basically have to go through and figure things out, which I like. It adds to that detective nature of what this type of game should be, and I think that's great. I love the isometric perspective as well. I think it adds a really nice depth to the game. You basically have a nice overview of the things that you can investigate, and you get an idea of how things fit together in this game. The fact that you only have your torch for illumination, everything else is in shadow, also adds to the atmosphere and the tension. And every so often, things do go bump in the darkness, and they can catch you by surprise. You might hear the odd wailing, the odd cackling, the odd thumping sound, cupboards closing, doors closing, that sort of thing. It all adds to the sense of being in a haunted place or a place where there's something there but you don't know what it is, which all adds to the tension, which is exactly what you want from this type of game. When it comes to the extermination games, where you basically are taking on the role of supernatural pest control, you have your weapon, you go in and you basically have to kick doors open and focus target on whatever it is you have to kill to clear that area, to clean it up, which can be difficult. The targeting system takes a bit of getting used to, but that's something that you can eventually get used to. It's a very polished game, I have to say. I am very impressed with the graphics and with just the general approach. The lighting effects are great, the shadows are amazing, and the actual design of the debris, the things like that, it all adds to the whole atmosphere of each level, of each area. There are helpful, handy hints as you go through, and you also have various tools that you can use to investigate. So you can have your EMF detector, you can have countermeasures against various things, but one of your biggest tools, one of the things that you will find is the most helpful to you, because it helps you plan, it helps you prepare, and it helps you attack and kill whatever it is you're facing, is your Cryptonomicon. Now, we're not going to go into where the word Cryptonomicon comes from. We're going to talk about the Cryptonomicon itself. It starts off having like cryptids and poltergeists and stuff like that, and you can focus on the blood, the ectoplasm, the EVP, pathology, the structural side of things, and symbols and things like that. And you can break things down and try and identify what the creature is that's infesting that particular area using the Cryptonomicon. And this then becomes very helpful because each of these entries can build and improve and expand and give you more knowledge, and you can buy more entries to the Cryptonomicon. In essence, the Cryptonomicon is a cross between a supernatural encyclopedia and a supernatural filofax, so to speak, in that it can give you the information that you need, but you can organize it in the way that you would organize a filofax, if any of you remember what a filofax is. I don't know why, but I seem to be obsessed with filofaxes these days. Maybe I should buy one if I can find one. Anyway, leaving that to one side and back to the game itself. After you finish your run through, you can basically go to the local bar and you can interact with the strange and wonderful characters that you find at the bar. You can also go to the store or your apartment, your safe house that is, and there are various actions that you can take there. When you go to your safe house, for example, you can craft new gear, you can reload, you can do all sorts of things, and it replenishes whatever stamina you've used up. If you go to the shop, there are all sorts of equipment you can buy. You can buy medicine, you can buy traps, you can buy armor and stuff like that. So there's a lot of things that you can do to improve your survivability in these levels. The interesting thing about this is that these areas are broken down into talking heads areas, so you don't really get to interact with the characters by running up to them and talking to them. When you go to your safe house, as I said, you can craft new gear, you can improve your skills, but then after a certain point, after you finish a certain number of missions, the map opens up with other missions, and they all kind of increase or decrease in difficulty depending on how much money you want to earn. And this is where it gets interesting, because that's where you suddenly take on more of a role of a supernatural exterminator than you did at the beginning of the game. And that's where the game really comes into its own, when you start exploring these random places and these random buildings, looking to figure out what's in there or trying to kill whatever creatures are in there. And don't be fooled, this is a tough game when it comes to the extermination side of things. It can be tricky and you can die several times on what looks like a very easy mission. But again, that's part of the challenge of the game and part of the tension of the game. So, if you are a Hellboy fan, then you really need to play this game, because this is the type of game that a Hellboy video game should have been, and should have been from the very beginning. Not the third-person action-adventure type stuff, but this. This is exactly the type of game that a Hellboy game should be, if anybody is thinking of making another Hellboy game. Look at HellSign. This is what you want to be looking for. This sort of game. Investigation, referencing, researching, and exterminating. That's what Hellboy should do. That's what Hellboy has always done in the comics, and that's what Hellboy should do in the video games as well. Suffice to say, I love this game. I think it's a fantastic game. I think it's one of the best investigation horror games that I've played, indie or otherwise. Hats off to Ballistic Interactive. You guys have done an amazing job with this game, and I am really looking forward to see what comes from you guys in the future. Let me know what you all thought about HellSign in the comments below. I am always curious to know what everyone thinks about the games that we cover here on this channel. And if you want more videos like this, then hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell, and I'll see you all next time.